Hey, it's Philmeyer. Let's talk about Astrologian on controller. Astrologian is Final Fantasy XIV's second pure healer after White Mage, with a stronger focus on direct healing and regen effects over barriers. I'd like to walk you through the controller layout I've settled on for the job. This time I've got two layout variants to consider, a base layout composed of 2 cross hotbars, and a dual set layout that uses 3. The layout is heavily influenced by my White Mage setup. All healer role actions are in the same slots, and similar spells share the same placements. If my White Mage layout worked for you, you'll likely feel right at home here. As with all of my controller layouts, I focus on placing instant use actions on the controller face buttons. That way I can maintain character movement with the left analog stick while still executing these abilities. Astro has the unique ability Light Speed, which temporarily reduces the cast time of its spells. This essentially turns the entire kit into instant cast except for the Ascend spell. That opens up some optimization opportunities, especially when using a dual set layout. Astrologian's card system revolves around using rotating actions on specific party members. Some controller players find this challenging and have created unique solutions to manage it. While I believe in using whatever setup works best for you, I personally don't think that's necessary. I'll go over a few techniques for managing the card system efficiently, but the layout remains straightforward. Let's start with the right trigger face buttons on the single set layout. Here I've placed Astro's 2 main attack spells, Malefic and Gravity, along with Combust, its damage over time spell. Light Speed is also here, placed next to Malefic and Gravity for quick access. This is especially helpful in dungeon runs, allowing Astro to keep up with the party while still dishing out damage. On the D-pad under the same trigger, I've slotted both Benefic spells, Sinistry and Divination. The Benefic spells have cast times and are placed to match my White Mage layout's cure spells. While Light Speed can make them instant, they benefit less from this, and we can't realistically optimize every action for face buttons. Sinistry fits well here because I'm usually targeting a party member via the D-pad to use it. After activation, I can follow up with Benefit from the same cluster or with another healing spell. Divination changes into Oracle, an instant cast AoE attack. While face buttons might be ideal for these, other abilities end up taking priority. That said, keeping them on the D-pad makes it easier to weave them between casts of Malefic and Gravity when on the offensive. Now let's look at the left trigger D-pad. This is where I keep the Helios spells. They both have cast times and their positions match up with White Mage's Medica spells. Yes, Lightspeed can make them instant, and it is great to have an instant AoE heal on a face button, and we'll come back to that in the dual set discussion. However, for me personally, the left trigger D-pad is something I can still use while keeping control of the left analog stick. On the DualSense controller, I can shift my right thumb over to the left analog stick while holding the left trigger and hit a D-pad action with my left thumb. It's not ideal, but for global cooldown actions that don't require targeting, it's workable. I find it's something that I don't need to do all that often either. Asuna stays in its usual slot for consistency across my healer layouts. Essential Dignity takes the top D-pad slot. While it can benefit from being on a face button, it makes sense here for now, especially since I'm often using the D-pad to select targets. We'll come back to this later. Now to the left trigger face buttons where I've placed the card actions. Astral Draw is on a face button for easy access while repositioning. It restores MP and reveals the next 3 card actions. The rest of the card skills are fanned out across the remaining face buttons. When first learning Astro, I think the trickiest part can be remembering which card to use on which party member. You'll frequently be targeting someone with the D-pad before using these cards, which can be daunting. But wait, if we're targeting with the D-pad, wouldn't the card actions make more sense there too? Even though these require a target, I think they still benefit more from being on face buttons. Here's why. First, if you don't have a target, using a card will automatically target yourself, and you can do that while moving. Second, I often use assist targeting to quickly select the party's main tank, which I now have mapped to the right stick button. Since many card effects are ideal for the tank, this helps a lot. And third, once you've targeted a party member, you can start moving while activating the card actions. This tiny bit of added mobility really adds up during fast-paced fights. So with all of that combined, I prefer to keep the card actions on face buttons. When stationary, soft targeting with a D-pad enables card buffs to be weaved onto party members without switching the main target, helping maintain the rhythm of the global cooldown. Let's shift over to the double cross hotbar. Swiftcast and Ascend are placed in the same spots as in my other healer layouts, allowing for fast combat revives. Minor Arcana and Macrocosmos go on the remaining face buttons. These are instant, targetless, off-global abilities, which are perfect for face button placement. Since their cooldowns are notable, the double cross hotbar is the right place for them. Surecast and Rescue are on the left D-pad, again matching my usual healer layout. Collective Unconscious is also here. Since it requires you to be stationary during use, D-pad placement is appropriate. Horoscope fills in the last D-pad slot. Since it combos with Helios, I can use Horoscope from the double cross hotbar, then quickly drop down to the base bar to use Helios. We'll also revisit Horoscope later. Repose and Lucid Dreaming take their usual positions on the left trigger's D-pad. Earthly Star is a ground-targeted ability, similar to White Mage's Asylum, so I've kept it in the same location for familiarity, and because it is best used when the party has stopped for full combat, it would benefit less from being on a face button. Neutral Sect enhances both Aspected Benefic and Helios Conjunction. Its location helps with the flow of comboing it with either of these, and with this lengthy cooldown, the double cross hotbar is the right location for it. Now for the left trigger face buttons. Aspected Benefic is similar to White Mage's Regen, so it's placed in the same slot. Having it on a face button makes it easier to use while staying mobile. Celestial Intersection and Exaltation also land here. Both are instant mitigation tools that I want quick access to in tricky situations. I most often use them on the party's tank or myself, which is why they go on face buttons. Celestial Opposition rounds out the cluster. Like Minor Arcana and Macrocosmos, it's instant, off-global, and doesn't need a target, so a face button works well. So that's my base Astrologian layout across one hotbar set. But if you're open to using one more hotbar, a dual set layout opens up even more flexibility. I switch between sets by tapping the right shoulder button. This is a behavior that can be set up in character configuration settings. My dual set layout splits the offensive spells into two sets, one with Malefic for single target damage, and one with Gravity for area attacks. This frees up a face button slot in the base hotbar. One of the Helios spells could be placed here, making it more accessible under Lightspeed. That can be helpful at lower levels when Astro may not yet have access to Celestial Opposition or Lady of Crowns. But I think there's a better option. Move Astral Draw to this freed face button slot. This makes it easy to weave between Astro's main attacks and helps to set up the card actions more fluidly. Now that Astral Draw has moved, we can shift Essential Dignity to a face button. Even though it needs a target, it benefits from movement flexibility, especially once you can hold 3 charges. With Essential Dignity off the D-pad, we can now place Horoscope there. This further streamlines the combo with Helios, which is something Astrologian will do often. Now I proposed a similar dual set layout for Sage in a previous video, but in that case I wasn't convinced it was worthwhile. For Astro though, I actually lean towards the dual set variant. I feel it adds just enough utility to be worth the small complexity bump. Which layout would you prefer? Let me know in the comments below. Before I end the video, I want to show one side of my expanded hotbar, which I use for common combat actions such as Limit Break and Focus Targeting. Since I moved my assist targeting macro to the right stick button, it freed up a slot in my expanded hotbar, which I've been experimenting with. With Healer, I've been slotting in a macro to target the second party member, which by default is the tank in a light party. This helps to streamline applying Aspected Benefic before a dungeon pull. Thanks for watching the video. If it helped you out, consider hitting that like button. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, keep adventuring and take care.